All right. Good morning. So, I know some of us are joining for the very first time. Those that are joining for the first time, or perhaps you have missed some classes, make sure that you've seen it before you go. For those that have been following, remember we started looking at back-end development using PHP. We define PHP as server-side scripting language used to develop dynamic web pages and web applications. And because it is a server-side programming language, we did mention that there's need for you to set up a server. In this case, we are using a local word server, which is called SAM server, that will be offering us the online services, even while we are still developing locally. And then after installing the SAM server, I also walk us through some necessary settings you need to also put in place for you to be able to launch a PHP file on your browser. That led to installing PHP extensions. We install Telefence, right? We install PHP server just to enable us to keep updating our page while we are developing. And then we also talk about PHP tags, right? Talk about PHP tag. I understand that we are coming from HTML, so we're already familiar with HTML tag. And I told us that in PHP, before you write PHP, at first, I told us that we can write HTML document in what? PHP file. But we cannot write PHP in what? HTML file. And if you look at the code structure on the screen, the file extension is .what? PHP, right? Which means that the technology you are using is PHP. So we are seeing what? HTML tag. So this HTML tag are embedded in what? In PHP what? Technology, just to help us to create a markup what? Content. So, but we cannot directly write PHP scripts inside this body tag, just like we normally do. We have to wrap our PHP code in the PHP tag. And what is the PHP opening tag? I told us that this is the PHP what? Opening tag, right? And then this is the PHP closing tag. So we need to understand that. So anywhere within your HTML document you want to incorporate PHP scripts, you have to wrap them in what? This tag. Exactly. Okay, so we just want to move further because I know that almost 90% of us have set up our system to execute PHP code. So the first thing we want to look at is we want to see how we can print our first PHP command. So, and that will take us to understanding the output function in PHP. Remember, just like in JavaScript, you have how many output functions? About 4 of them, right? We can output our results with alert, right? We can also output with what? Document.what? Write. We can as well output directly in HTML elements using what? The inner HTML method, right? And then we can use console.what? Log. Now, why I have to recite that? For you to know that something of that nature, we want to look at each version in PHP. So in PHP, for you to display your output, you have to use what we call echo. Echo. When you see any programmer using the word echo, you have already know the language is speaking, which is what? PHP. So the first example, just to explain the PHP tag and also to prove that actually we have been able to successfully output our PHP command, is for us to, I want to output a simple string inside the PHP tag. And how will I declare it? So I'll simply say echo. I'll simply say echo. Now, a string is a string, even in JavaScript or PHP. What is a string? Let me hear from anybody. What is a string? A text data type, right? And you know, even if from JavaScript, we are taught that whenever we want to denote a string, we have to wrap them in what? Either the single quote or what? Double quote. So let's just output welcome. We just want to use this to confirm if our PHP is actually communicating. So welcome to, let's say PHP. Okay, so welcome to PHP class. So I want to output this. And then in PHP, when you are done running your code, you know, in JavaScript, we are also taught that you must end your code with what? Semicolon. So it's still applicable here. Now, how do I now see the results? I want to output welcome to PHP class on the browser using what? Echo, right? And we are storing the string directly in what? In the echo, not that we created a variable and then we are now echoing what? The variable. So we install a server, and it is that server that offers us what? This command here. If you have not successfully set up your server, you are not going to see this command. But let's assume that you are not able to set up the server. You want to run PHP file after adding its parts in the what? Environment what? Variable. For those that are having that issue, this is how you are going to start your PHP. The first thing you are going to do, you are going to open a browser. So I want to quickly show us this. For those that are having issue with setting up what? The PHP server and other. So this is how you will be executing your PHP file. Once the browser opens, I'll show us how to go about it. Let's give the system some time to open the browser. Some updates are running at the background. Now, once your browser has opened, pay attention. Now, let me show us something. We need to know the URL so that you know why I'll be writing the code I want to write now. So let me go to the htdocs and show us our file URL. So I will see how we are going to call it without using PHP server. So if I go to this PC and I go to my local disk and I go to XAMPP, remember, and then I go into what? htdocs. Now, inside htdocs, this is the folder we are working with, right? So if I open this folder, how many files do we have here? Just one, index. Now, let's assume that I am in the browser. I am in the browser, and I want to launch this file without going through the PHP server. Now, what you are going to do is to know the name of your what? The project folder in the htdocs. In this case, what is the name? Project what? 2, right? Slash what? Index. So this is what you are going to do. You go back to that browser. You start by entering localhost. Remember that you must have started your what? Your Apache and what? MySQL. I hope you can see record. Before I started, I have to start my XAMPP server. I have to start what? The Apache and what? The MySQL, and ensure that I have a port ID and the port active. Then you can now come here and say localhost localhost slash, what's the name of that project? Project what? Project 2, right? What's the name of the file you are looking for inside? Slash what? Index. So if it is about us page, slash what? About us. So for those that are having issue setting up their server, please, depending on when you will resolve it, this is how you'll be running your file. Then does what? PHP. So if I run it, let's see what we get. We should be able to get that welcome to PHP class as the output. Okay, so we are supposed to get that, but let me even check whether our code is correct. So let's try using the server to run it and see if we are going to get the same output, just to find out if everything is okay with the code first. It's either you click on the server icon directly like this, or you right click and select what? Server what? Or SAP project. So any of them will launch it on the browser. So let's hold on for it. I suppose to have seen welcome. So if you have opened your file, you can as well be trying it too. You can as well be trying it. So my project is still starting. Okay, so which means that it's from our code, because even with the server, I can't view any content. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean. Okay, here, here. Want to see what? Italy fence. So I would like to debug to know why this is not outputting, because I know that there's no error here. So let me put it whether it's still loading. Let me cut it and put it here. See. Okay, so I'm just wondering why it's not outputting, but let me try and create a variable. Let me create a variable and pass the variable to the echo and use it to confirm. And in PHP, for you to create variable, you have to start with what? $sign. Anytime you want to create variables. So let me say I'm creating variable name and equals to, I want the variable to store that information. Welcome to PHP class. right? So you need to also end your variable with semicolon. Now I want to echo this, echo dollar, echo dollar name. Then I also what? End it. So let me run this one and see if I'm going to get a result. If something wrong, something is wrong with my system configuration. Somebody should confirm for me. Just confirm this also have outputted. So if it doesn't work now, I will need to restart. This also have gotten. Let me try outputting HTML document to see. Welcome. Has anybody gotten an answer? I don't think the fault is. HTML is outputting. What did I say? Oh. So we are supposed to put PHP here. Sorry, we are supposed to put. We are supposed to put PHP after the question mark. That is the opening section. That is why it was not outputting PHP, not just opening this. This one that does not need to carry the PHP. So if you go back now, I refresh, we are supposed to get the answer. All right. So now let's look at this. Was the one we wrote using the URL on the browser. Why this is the copy we launched through the server itself directly from the IDE. So I believe with this we have confirmed. Yes. That means you are not done configuring the server. So I just give us an alternative method now because I need to move on. So just be using that method until you rectify it. Please. I don't want to start going into setup. You guys must have settled that when you're here on Tuesday. Maybe you are here to do something to complete that. So let's continue. So another thing again we look at was the second topic which I am going to waive. We have already done it. Is setting up PHP environment to install. Say that you start by installing what? Exam server, which offers us PHP, Apache and what? The MySQL. And then the next topic we want to look at in this section is PHP variable, right? PHP variable. You said? Okay. From this one here. Here. Already what? Open. Now, if this is what you should do, like now I have already launched it. If I want to launch it again, if I click on it, I'm going to get that message. So for subsequent launches, you don't select that one. You come to this one that say what? Open file in what? The browser. This one is only required to run once. Are you getting it? So if you use this one now, it's going to what? Work for you. All right, so let's quickly look at PHP variable quickly. Let's write PHP variable. PHP syntax and variable. PHP syntax and variable. So what do we mean by PHP? Let me use comment to be explaining some of these things. Make sure you write to some of what that are not writing. So we are looking at PHP syntax and variable. PHP syntax and what? Variables. So we need to know what is PHP syntax definition, right? PHP syntax is the set of rules. PHP syntax is the set of rules. Are you there? Set of rules that define how PHP programs are written. PHP syntax is the set of rules that defines how PHP programs are written. Just rules. Let's write fast. Once I dictate 2 times, I will not dictate again. PHP syntax is a set of rules that define how PHP programs are written. We have talked about syntax before now. So the best way we can understand syntax is to know that is the format. Every programming language has their own format that we established in JavaScript. Right? So most of these things are the same, but with different syntax. For example, who can tell us one of the things that's different from the way you do it in JavaScript already? In JavaScript, we are not using $sign to create what variable, right? You simply just type what name equals to. But here now is a rule. It's part of what the syntax that must be adhered to. You can't create a variable without what attaching the $sign. So, for example, so copy this as an example under that note. Copy the whole of this. So this is a variable, and this is the output. So after writing this, we quickly look at PHP output method before we continue with the variable illustration. PHP output method. PHP what? Output method. Right. In PHP, to display your results, you are still writing this one since you guys write fast. Once you are done writing, you write PHP output method. PHP output method. Are we there now? I said PHP output, or just write in PHP to output or display your results. In PHP to output or display your results. Use echo. So let's take note of that as we proceed. Anytime you want to output, we are to use what? Echo. Followed by the variable name, as you can see it here. Followed by the variable name. So what is even the variable? What is variable? Remember we said that what we are looking at what? PHP syntax and what? Variable. That is just about syntax. Now let's look at definition of a variable. I don't want to assume because I know some of us miss JavaScript classes. So for that reason, most of the things here are the same, but the syntax are different. So which means that if you follow up very well here, all you need is just to get this video, you'll be able to code. Now, what is a variable? Right, a variable is a container used to store data in PHP. A variable is a container used to store data. A variable is what? A container used to store what? Data. Used to store data. So let's look at example of a variable. So I'll start by creating the PHP what? Tag. Always don't forget. Just create the. Now, I want to say something here. Let's assume that the whole of this file is not, I don't have any HTML document here. Hello? Let's assume that the whole of this file here, I don't have any HTML document. Let's say it like this. It is not compulsory you close it. You don't need this close. Just create what? The opening tag. You are free to write your code. Did anybody understand what I just explained now? let's assume that this file, there is no HTML. The whole of the scripts, they are PHP scripts. You don't need to open the PHP tag and close it before you can use it like this. You don't need this. You don't need this one, this closing section. That is if the entire file is dedicated for what? PHP. But the moment you have, why are we closing it? We are closing because there is a part of that file that is running what? HTML. So if you do not close it, then you'll be getting error. I don't know if anybody understands it now. So that is why each time I am going to be closing, because this file is holding both HTML.
Yes, it's allowed. I have said it before. You can write them anywhere within the HTML, before the HTML, provided they are wrapped in what? The tag. Are you following now? So I was talking about when is it not necessary for me to what? To have the closing tag? Because right now, this is what? The opening what? Tag. So if I write any code under it without this closing section, it's going to throw error. Why? Because I'm having what? HTML document. So now I need to ensure that I close what? I close it as well. Now within it, we are looking at the example of what? The variable. So now let's assume that the task is create PHP, document all this, PHP, a variable to store or hold. To store or hold. To store or what? Hold. My name and my age. My name and age. Because we just defined now that variables are used to hold data, right? They are used to store. And because we are coming from a programming background, JavaScript, I don't need to explain too much. I have told us over there why variables are necessary, because we want to introduce what did not come with the program as an input, because you will use it to program along the line. So remember the part of the syntax rule says that you must start declaring your variable with $sign. So how many variables are we creating? 2, right? One is the one storing what? My first name. So I will use first name because I've used name somewhere. Now we can still maintain some of those principles of declaring our variable using camel case. I believe you still remember camel case, right? Or Pascal case. How many of us still remember this from JavaScript? Camel and Pascal's case. Pascal case is where the first letter of each word is capital letter, while the rest small letter. While camel case is where only from the second word, the first character will be what? Capital letter. So if I put this L, capital letter, what type of case is that? Pascal. So let's take note of that. And then we are still using assignment operator here. Remember we talked about operator, right? Assignment operator is what? Is single what? Equal sign, right? Once it is 2 equal sign like this, who can tell us the programming interpretation of this? All the way from JavaScript, you should know. It means equality, right? It means equality. But right now that we are using only one, what we are communicating is a pipe that is conveying what? Value into what? A container called what? $what? First name. Now remember from JavaScript also some rules when working with string, that when you are storing various data type in your variable, there are rules that guide us. If I'm storing integer in a variable, what is the rule? It does not require what? Quoting, right? But my first name is a string. So I can use single one or what? Double. So which is, let's say what? Aguero. All right. What is the syntax again? Syntax says that what? You must end your code with what? Semicolon. That is why I first of all explain syntax as set of rules that must be adhered to when writing what? PHP. So that's the first variable. So the next variable is $what? age, right? $age, $age, this is number. So I will say, okay, age is, then I must end it with this. Now, how do I now output them? How do I output? I will say what? Echo, right? I will say echo. How many of them do I want to output? So I want to output, listen, I want to output my name is. I want to output my name is. My name is. So my name is a string that has not been captured in any word variable, right? So I'll write that. We did something like this in JavaScript. So my name is, now in PHP, to concatenate, in JavaScript, we concatenate with what? Plus, right? But in PHP, you concatenate with dots. Are you following? Then followed by what? The variable name, which is what? So you are about calling what? Dollar what? Dollar first name is already acknowledged as inbuilt because you create it. Are you getting it now? So I can also say concatenate it with what? Another string coming out here, another string coming out here. And that string is to say what? And I am what? I am, let's say what? 20 years old. And I want to bring in the what? Another concatenation, right? Concatenate what? Age, isn't it? Concatenate what? Age, and then end my code. Now, I am getting an error here based on how we are concatenating. Let me take this off first. I just want to find out where the error is. So let me just stop here and get the. Okay, so now let's go to the front end and run the code and say what we get is what? My name is what? Aguero. So I'm going to give us just 3 minutes to replicate this. Make sure that you are transferring all this to your notes as an example under what? Variable. And then at the same time, you are also what? Implementing. Okay? This is back here. You better open your eyes very well. I don't know whether he has traveled out. Yes. Okay.
All right. So now let's look at so if we want to output the two variables at the same time, we just put what? A comma, and then use your dollar as usual to call the next variable. So we can use this to output multiple variables. But now, let's assume that, okay, let's go basic. I want to jump. So let's look at some of the rules of variables in PHP, right? Rules. So that confirms how to work with variable, both integer variable and string variable. Let's look at some rules. Some rules of variables in PHP. Number one, variable must start with $sign. Number one, variable must start with $sign. Rule number two, variable cannot start with number. It's almost the same thing with JavaScript. This rule was also there. Variable must not start with what? Number. Then variable are case sensitive. Variable are case sensitive. So for example, this is not the same thing as $age. This is not the same thing as this. Hope you agree with me. This is not the same thing as this. How do I know? This one, the A is what? Capital letter. That's the meaning of what? Variable are case what? Sensitive. So any questions so far on variable before we go to the next topic? I want to see how we can go far in it. So if, okay, Yes, because we are not focusing on creating space for now. We are just at putting value. You know, even in JavaScript, we did that. Now we are concatenating empty space, right, for us to space. But that is not what I'm focusing on right now. I just want to see our result. Now, the next topic is PHP data type. Eh? How is your own showing? All right, so let's talk about PHP data type quickly. PHP data type. PHP data what type? PHP data type. PHP data type. Right. Data type are information we use in programming. Data type are information we use in programming. Data type are information we use in programming. Which can be divided into primitive and advanced. Which can be divided into primitive and what? Advanced. Which can be divided into primitive and advanced. So just like we treated them in JavaScript, we have under the primitive or basic, we have example of primitive data type now. You write, we have string. So the way I am going to explain them here is that I am going to use examples to explain them. Let's look at some of the examples here. We have number one, example of PHP primitive data type. Primitive data type. So number one, I have string. So we don't need to. I told us then that I'll be very fast because most of these things we have covered them in JavaScript. So I'm just trying to feel all right. Just now we'll have just go and research. Then three, we talk about float also in JavaScript, right? And then four, we talk about boolean. Talk about boolean, right? And then here we have array. We have array. Array is under advanced. Array and objects. These ones are not under primitive. So under advanced, you write PHP function, PHP array, PHP objects. All these are the advanced. But these ones that I mentioned, they are the basic. And I told us then that the basic are already inbuilt. So let's use variable to confirm them. So I'm going to use a variable to explain them. So let's look at the example. Let me create example of string is when you create a variable like this and then you say maybe name. I've already used name, but let me just add something to it. Equals to, let's say what, Mary. So this is, sorry. So this is a string text. Then if I create another one, let's say what, $age is 80. So this is an example of what? Example of what? Example of integer, right? So if I create $price, 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 let's say example of dollar price 20.5. What type of data type is this? This is float, right? This is float. Then if I create dollar true equals to true true. So this is what type of data? What type of data is this? Let me just, this is what Boolean. So like I told us, I don't want to waste my time there. I just want you to know that we also have them in PHP. Now let's go to PHP operators and control structure. Quickly, PHP operators and control structure. So what we are trying to achieve is to have basic knowledge of the language before we start, processing our forms. Where we are going is that after we are familiar with the language to an extent, we will now go back and start bringing all those forms that you created and start seeing. We will now enter what we call PHP MySQL. It's a different topic. But what we are learning now is just PHP pure language. Because in web development, you don't use only the PHP. You combine the PHP and what? MySQL. One is the one processing the data. The other one is the one storing what? The data. So you use both of them together. But it will look confusing if we just start now. Okay, let's bring that our website and start processing pictures to the back end. We will be confused. That is why we are learning the language to an extent. And because we are coming from JavaScript, which still have something similar, that's why you can see I am running very fast. So the next topic is what? PHP what? PHP operators. PHP what? Operators and control structure. Control what? Structure. PHP operator and control structure. So what do we mean by operators? Right. Operators are symbols in programming. Operators are symbols in what? In programming that denote special expression. That denote special expressions. So they have their own special meaning. They are symbols in programming that denotes special words, expression. So we can group them into arithmetic category of words. So let's just say an example of them, and I'm going to use group. I'm going to use group to explain them. Examples, we have the first one is arithmetic. So we have some operators which are recognized as what? Arithmetic. Arithmetic. Okay, I think I've got arithmetic operator. So under arithmetic, we have plus sign, we have minus sign. Under arithmetic, we have this. Under arithmetic, we have asterisk as times, and then we have slash as what? Division. We dealt with all this in JavaScript. So the next one is what? The next one is comparison operator. Comparison operator. Operator. So under this category, we have equals to. We have two of them. Then we have this. Who can tell us what the second one is from JavaScript? I explained it. Then we have this. We have this and this. They are part of the comparison words operator. I was asking, when you have exclamation mark before the equal sign, what does that denote? It's not, right? It's not. We learned it under is equals to and what? Not equals to. from JavaScript. So go and master that. So the next one, I just want to highlight the key one that pertain to most of the things we'll be doing. The next one is assignments. Assignment operators. Assignment operators. So assignment operator, that's where we have what do we have there? Single word equal sign, right? Then assignment operator. Plus equals to, who can tell us what that means from JavaScript to explain it? Plus equals to or minus equals to, what does that mean? That is increment now, right? That is increment before the value, adding value. We talk about that. So now we are going to look at how to perform some basic calculation with this arithmetic operator. So we look at that, performing, make sure you are documenting, performing simple, just for you to know that most of those things that you did in JavaScript, because all these things look very fundamental, but if you don't know, in an interview, you can fail. They can tell you that can PHP create calculator, because you have not used it, you think that no. So that is exactly what I want to do here now. Simple words, arithmetic calculation. So PHP can perform calculation. For example, I'll create another tag. Then let me close it. So I'll create a variable, let's say variable A, to hold a value for me, let's say number 10. And it, another variable, let's say variable B, hold another integer, let's say 12. Now, I want to create another variable that will perform, or I want to echo the values in the two variables. Along the line, I want to perform what? Addition operation. So I would say PHP echo dollar what? Dollar $A, right? So I'm starting with the plus, then plus sign, and then dollar B, and then I will end my code. So if I go to the front end, as you see the addition before, 22. So that place that I put plus, you can put what? Any of those operator and see what you get. You can put this, and then let's check. So I want us to play with them. So we have different what? Value. So something that is possible in Java, in a Python, let me see. No, it's not possible. That is Python. Now, there's another operator. If you put modulus or modulus, that is you putting percentage. That is an operator that will display only the remainder. For example, if I have 3 divided by 2, what with modulus print? 1. That what? It goes in there once, and the remainder what? 1. So if I run it now, you will get what? What are we dividing? Remember that what? Value what? B is 12, right? Value A is 10. And you are saying that A divide by what? If B divide A, it will only go there what? Once, which is what? The 10. Isn't it? So that is what is projected. Look at the result here. It brought out what? 10. That 10 means what? I can only go in there what? Once. That is what it means. So let's play with this. So which is a little bit different from the way we know it in a Python. But in Python, what it will print? It will print what? To print 1. So it will print 2. Why? Because if 10 go into what? Go into 12, 1, it will remain what? 2. For this one, instead, it's just printing the first block that can go in, and then just delete the remainder. So let me give us 3 minutes to play around it before we look at the next. All right, so let's look at least with that, we have seen the different signs that mean different things in programming. Remember that we are talking about 2 different topics: operators and what? Control what? Structure. So let's look at the control structure aspect now. So you write conditional statements. Statements in PHP. So we can just write control structure first, and then under it write conditional statements. We are starting with condition. So all the way from JavaScript, we were taught that control structure is an essential part of what? Of programming language. I think let's put it in right. Control structure is an important part of programming. Is an important part of programming, which determine the flow of instruction within the program, which determine the flow, the order of code execution. Let's use that word, which determine the order of code execution, which determine the order of code execution. That is what conditional as a control structure is. And we were taught, even from JavaScript, that control structure has 2 branches. So example of it is that conditional word statement as number 1. And then number 2, we have the loop. We also talk about it. So example of control structure, we have conditional statement, we have the loops. So we are going to start with the conditional statement. So under the conditional statement, that is where we have the if. Remember, even in JavaScript, we have the if what? The if. We have the if else. These are examples of PHP conditional statements. Then we have the elif. We have the elif, and then we have the switch. All these are conditional statements in PHP. So we are going to look at some of the examples. You can now go on your own and deepen your knowledge. Like I said, my target is just to acquaint us with the basic knowledge of PHP, then, because where we want to apply it is what matters. Now, example. So let's say I have the PHP tag open PHP. So let me set my initial, or let me set my global variable outside the function. It's called global variable. So let's say $age. Now, because I've used age before, so I will just add e to it just to differentiate. Or let's say what? Age 1. And then equals to 18. So I want to use the if else statement now. So why we created that global variable, that is outside the if else function, is that we want to use it to verify whether to display a true value or what? False value. So that is going to be a kind of a number that you have set to compare the if statement with. So I will now say if is a function, so you open it parenthesis. If value in variable age 1, if value in variable age 1 is greater than or equals to 18, what should happen? Remember from JavaScript, I shouldn't read much. What should happen? PHP echo a string, and the echo a string, and the string should be you are or you cannot vote. You cannot vote. You cannot vote. S is the first statement. That is what? If that is alternative statement. S, so I will write what? The S here, and then you open another curly bracket. S, so we need to end this one. S, what happened? Echo, you can vote. This is how I'm explaining the control structure. You can vote. All right, so now let's run it and see what we get. You cannot vote. Why are we getting we cannot vote? Or you cannot vote? Let's look at the structure. The value here is 18. And we are saying that if the value here is equal to 18, the question is that, is the value there equal to 18? Yes, right? And is it greater than 18? Is the value there equal to or greater than 18? Is equal to 18. That means one of the conditions is met, right? But it's not greater than what? 18, right? And we say that where it equals to 18, that's the condition of what that is met. Or greater than. So it's not greater than, it's only one that's met, and that's why it has put this. Now, if I put this less than 18, who can tell us what is going to print? If I put less than 18, let's say 15, what are we going to get? The S value, right? So let's check. Yes. So that is to confirm that what? The communication order is intact. So let me also give us a few minutes. So you create this one as your first classwork. Then you formulate another scenario different from checking for each. You design it by yourself.
Let's just run. Now look up. Let's assume that you want to use the elif. The elif is when you have more than one true value to compare with. More than one true value to compare with. That is when you bring in the elif. But if it is just one true value, like here now, it's just what? One true value. So if I come here now and say, okay, elif, if I say elif, maybe I have another value, another true value, $H1. Elif $H1 is greater than or equals to 15, like the other time. So this is another option now. Another option. So maybe this one is to echo. It should echo many small to vote. So I can say I can create more options. So if I go to the front end now, running at all. Okay, stop it. So I have error at line what? 48. Where is error at line 48? Okay, yes, I'm seeing an error here. Unexpected what? Let me see. Okay, so when we are adding it was the wrong place. We are adding inside this particular one. We are supposed to add it after the curly bracket of the first true value. So let me see if I can just clear it off. So my elif is supposed to come here. Elif $H1 $H1 so equals to let's say 18. Then what do we want to output here? So we output echo you can vote first, then before the S. Let me arrange it very well. For the S comes in. Here I might see getting okay, let me do it like this so that I'm very sure. Next. Let's say $H. Let me rearrange my code. $H. Let me just add it to it. I'm setting it to the same 18. Then if H, if $H, if $H, like I've used it before, if $H, hope is not named conflict. If $A is greater than 18, what should PHP do? Print or echo you cannot vote. You cannot vote. S, that is elif. Elif. So S if, not S elif. That was the spelling error. S if, let's correct it from our note there.
Then the same $each, I'm using this AG is equals to 18. What we want PHP to output, echo you can vote. Let me just say for now, just to make it different from the other one. So these are the true values. If this one did not, if this criteria is not met, it would adopt this. And if this one is not met, before the S, so the S is the last one, which is the true, the first value. So PHP will output you can vote. All right, so let's write that, but let's confirm first. Here we say that if it's greater than 18, it will print what? You cannot vote. Sorry, if it is less than rather. If it is less than 18, you cannot vote. Then else if it is equals to 18, you can vote for now. But if it is not equals to 18 and it's not less than what? 18, that is when it will. Now, who can suggest what is going to output? Which of these options is going to output? We have this, we have this, we have this. Which one is it going to output? So let's go and check now. Let's confirm together. You can vote for now. So let's implement. Let's write and implement. So the next class we'll look at loop. We'll run it up with a loop aspect of the control structure. The assignment is to make more research on more complex aspects of application of this. The statement can be more complex than this that we did in JavaScript. Go and deepen your research, your knowledge on the topic we have covered, the PHP variable, PHP control structure. So the next class, I will just conclude with PHP loop. So once we have done loop and functions, an array as part of an object as part of the advanced, then we can now start properly with PHP MySQL, where we will now start applying it in our website directly. But all this is just also have basic knowledge before we go into the application. So all this that we are learning, you will see them when we start applying. See us using, in fact, you cannot write PHP code that will process your form data to the back end without using the control structure. There are so many code we are going to write that will require this if else. So that is why we need to establish it before we go into it. Do we have any question?